In esclusiva per SBS Australia, Durath Cooper incontra l'ambasciatore australiano a Roma, David Ritchie. Good morning, buongiorno ambasciatore.
Buongiorno, molto lieto. Grazie di essere qui.
Grazie a lei. Le farò le domande prima in italiano e poi in inglese.
Sì.
Ambassador Ritchie, cosa l'ha portata ad intraprendere la carriera diplomatica? Ambassador Ritchie, what has led you to diplomacy?
Well, I joined the diplomatic service in 1975, so 36 years ago now. And what led me to it was that I had studied languages at university. I was born and grew up outside Australia, well, in Papua New Guinea, and enjoyed the life very much. And I've had a wonderful career and have greatly enjoyed all my postings and all my time overseas. I've been posted in Bonn, in East Berlin, in Nairobi. I was ambassador in Jakarta in my last posting, and now ambassador in Italy and also ambassador to San Marino. So that's very good, and it's been a terrific career and I've enjoyed it a lot. So a diplomatic life is a very good one. We recommend it to everybody, and I hope there's plenty of Australians out there that apply for it, because we need good people.
Qual è stata la sua prima impressione dall'Italia appena insediatosi a Roma? What kind of impression did you get of Italy as you arrived in Rome?
I enjoy Italy very much. I mean, one of the things you need to understand, or people I'm sure understand, is that, Australians really love Italy, and as I understand, Italians really love Australia. So there's a love affair between the two countries. This is the first and most important thing. Australians love to come to Italy. We hope more Italians go to Australia, and we might have a talk about that in a minute. But I think Rome is a wonderful city. It's a fantastic city. The history behind it, the culture, the sophistication, the food, all of this is very, very wonderful for an Australian. But not just Rome. I've had the opportunity to travel quite a lot around all the rest of Italy, and many more things to see. And I'm afraid I'm going to have to spend my whole posting not going outside Italy, because there's so much to see here. So Rome is a great city. It's one of the truly great cities of the world.
Che rilevanza ha avuto la recente visita del governatore generale d'Australia? What was the relevance of Governor General's visit to Italy?
Well, I think it was extremely relevant, and it was a big success, and I want to thank the Italian government very, very much for that. The Governor General was not only able to attend celebrations in Rome to mark the 150th anniversary of Italian unity, but she also visited Sicily. She visited Taormino and Catania. She visited Reggio Emilia. She was in Venice. And also we went to a very small town called Conzano, which is sort of halfway between Turin and Milano. Now, the President Napolitano, very kindly invited not just the Governor-General but a lot of other heads of state to come to Rome to celebrate this very, very important event. And a lot of heads of state came to Rome, saw the event and left. What was special about the Governor-General's visit was that she came and went to visit a lot of the rest of Italy. So what we were celebrating more than anything else, apart from Italy's 150th anniversary, was the contribution that Italians have made to Australia. And there are slightly over 900,000 Italians with Australians of Italian descent in Australia. So almost getting on for a fifth of our population, which is a huge number. So we wanted to go and celebrate the contribution that they have made to Australia. So here in Rome, in addition to her meetings and attending the celebrations, the Governor-General visited the Museum of Italian Immigration. In Sicily, we were able to have a wonderful reception with all representatives of all the migrant associations. In Reggio Emilia, she was very interested in early childhood education, and Reggio Emilia has got one of the best reputations in the world for early childhood education. My own daughter was educated in Australia using the Reggio Emilia system, and we were also able to see the place where the Italian national flag had been first created. In Venice, we went to the Biennale in particular and were able to see the efforts of Australian artists, but we also met a lot of people, local people from Venice. But in Conzano at the end, Conzano is a little town where almost or slightly over half of its inhabitants before the Second World War migrated to a town called Ingham in Australia, which the Governor-General knows very well. So almost every resident of Conzano has a relative in Ingham. And we had a festa in the Piazza Australia, by the way, it's called, and it was a wonderful occasion. So the visit was very, very important in celebrating Italian unity, but also celebrating the fantastic role that Australians of Italian descent have played in Australia. It was a truly remarkable visit, really wonderful. And we couldn't have been more welcome. The Governor-General, the hospitality that was extended to her was enormous. And I happen to know that President Napolitano phoned at least one of the mayors in a town where she visited afterwards to say how did it go. So the Italian government was very interested in it.
A suo parere, quali pensa siano le differenze sostanziali fra la politica economica italiana e quella australiana? In your opinion, what is the more remarkable difference between the Italian economic policy and the Australian one?
Well, I hope you understand that in the current climate, I'm not going to comment too much on the Italian economic policy. That's really a matter for Italy. But let me just say this in regard to Italian economic policy, that Italy is still a very, very important economy globally. Italy is the 7th largest economy in the world, so it's one of the top 8 economies, so G8 member. And we want Italy to be very prosperous. Why do we want Italy to be very prosperous? Because we can sell lots of things to Italy. So we have a very, very big interest in the Italian economy doing very well. So we work very closely with Italy in a number of international international forums like the G20 and elsewhere. I know that our Treasurer, our Foreign Minister, including at the time he was Prime Minister, and the Governor of our Reserve Bank have very, very close ties with, for example, Mario Draghi and others. You might like to know that the Governor-General sat next to Mr Tremonti at a dinner here in Rome at the Quirinale. So we follow Italian economic policy very closely.
Which is not easy.
Well, no,
it's a little bit too complicated.
I simply won't comment on that. It's a matter for Italy. But we do want Italy to do well. And if there's anything we can do in that regard, we'd be very happy to do it. In terms of Australian economic policy, we've done really well in Australia. At the moment, unemployment's about 5%, maybe even a little under 5%. Inflation is very low. Our debt levels are very low. We're the only OECD country that didn't go into recession during the global downturn. That's partly a result of the fact that we're a big exporter to countries like China, which is our largest trading partner and which need the things that Australia has, raw materials, energy, things of that nature. It's partly a result of that, and that's very good for Australia. But it's also very much the result of a long period of economic reform in Australia. So right through from the Prime Minister Hawke's government in Australia, Prime Minister Keating through Prime Minister Howard to the current government, there's been a long tradition of economic reform in Australia. And those reforms have paid off. So in the long term, yes. We're very strong supporters of maintaining our competitiveness, and to do that you have to perpetually reform the economy and adapt to different circumstances, and that has served Australia really well. Our growth rate in Australia will be somewhere around 3%, which is one of the highest, if not the highest, in the OECD. So I guess the lesson that I would draw out of that is the importance of economic reform, and it's for Italy to decide how it manages its economy, but for Australia that has been fundamentally important.
Nella sua newsletter si auspica una maggiore interazione industriale ed economica fra Italia ed Australia. In che modo pensa possa essere facilitato l'ingresso in Australia per gli eventuali italiani che si muovono per lavoro fra i due paesi? In your recent newsletter, you wish a closer economical and industrial interaction between Italy and Australia. How do you think this can be accomplished? There must be a way to make it easier for those Italians working in Australia to travel to Australia in terms of visa.
Well, can I say right up front that I don't accept the view that visas are a problem.
Okay.
If people want to go and work or live in Australia, live or work in Australia, it is easy to do. We welcome foreign investment. We are very keen to get foreign investment in Australia, and a number of Italian companies are doing very, very well in Australia and have won big contracts. And I think if you go to talk to some of those companies, Geller, for example, but there are some other very large companies that are involved in Australia, you'll find that where they have big investments or big joint ventures in Australia, there is no problem with their staff coming and working in Australia at all. So part of the deal of attracting foreign investment to Australia is being able to provide conditions under which employees can go and work for a period in Australia or live in Australia. And I don't personally believe there's a particular problem with that. We do require visas for people who come to Australia. That's just something we do. That's our position. We have a very strong view that we should control those who enter Australia. But the visa process is very straightforward and very easy, and it's very easy to obtain a visa quickly. So I don't think that's a problem actually. No company has yet. I've been here a year, has yet raised that with me as a problem. What is a problem is interest. Whenever I talk to Italian companies, they say, "Oh, it's such a long way, molto lontano, troppo lontano." They say, "How could we possibly go to Australia?" And they're naturally very interested in opportunities that are closer to home. They're interested in opportunities in Europe. They're interested in opportunities in North Africa and the Middle East. They're to some extent interested in China. But there are fantastic opportunities for Italian companies in Australia. As I mentioned, we're a huge resource producer. We're one of the biggest resource producers in the world in Australia. What we need in Australia is the kind of expertise that Italian companies can bring. Italian companies are very good at engineering, they're very good at design, they're very good at railways and communications and tunnelling and building ports and things like that. That's what we need. And Italy, I can see so many opportunities for Italian companies in Australia, and particularly in an economy that's doing so well. So the biggest problem, in my view, is not visas and other issues like that. The biggest problem is attitude.
And the distance.
And the distance. People say, "Oh, it's such a long way." But if those companies go and compete in Australia for contracts and win them, and they do win them, then they make a lot of money out of it. So I would encourage Italian companies not to think closer to home, but actually look at the opportunities that exist in a country like Australia. Can I just say one final thing on visas? I would love to see more Italian young people go to Australia. And we have a fantastic scheme called the Work and Holiday Visa Scheme. So Italian young people can go and visit Australia and work in Australia for a period of time, so up to 6 months I think it is. So I would like to see a lot of Italians, younger people, backpackers, go and enjoy Australia and do some work at the same time. We often see, for example, British backpackers or German backpackers in Australia who are working part-time as waiters or waitresses or in some other form, picking fruit or whatever. And I'd like to see a lot more young Italians go and do that. And I think there'd be a lot of interest in that. I don't think we're taking enough advantage of that scheme at the moment.
Che cos'è il progetto Square Kilometre Array? What
Yeah.
can you tell us about the Square Kilometre Array project?
Well, Square Kilometre Array is very exciting. It will be the biggest telescope on Earth. I mean, it makes something like the Hubble Space Telescope look small. This is the idea is a huge series of radio telescopes across a very large area, and it will be a very expensive project, but it will be one of the most exciting bits of science that the world has ever seen, because it will be able to undertake scientific research, astronomical research, cosmological research, physics research at a level that has never been seen before in the world. Australia, with New Zealand, is one of two areas bidding for the location of this telescope, and we believe that we provide the best location. It would be to a large extent in Western Australia, where we have huge open spaces with no sound, because for a telescope like this, it's very important not to have sound, and they need the right conditions to be able to detect.
So it won't be in the desert?
Out in the desert. And there's very little sound. In talking to the authorities in Italy, I would have to say, though, the scientists are absolutely convinced that Australia, with New Zealand, provides the best scientific conditions for this project. But there'll be decisions made later this year and probably early next year about the location. There's a pilot study underway into some of the technology at the moment. But we're very hopeful that Italy will support Australia and New Zealand, and secondly that Italian companies will bid for the large construction contracts that go with this. This is a huge project which will be very, very expensive. We'll need a lot of high-tech construction, and I think Italian companies will be very competitive in bidding for contracts under that.
My final question.
Please.
What can be done to better promote Australian tourism to Italy and vice versa?
Well, I don't think we need to do very much to promote Australian tourism to Italy. I've just got the latest figures, and now unfortunately the latest figures from 2009, but you might be interested to know that in 2009 630,000 Australians visited Italy. So 630,000 Australians visited Italy. That's an extraordinary number if you think about it. I mean, there are 21 million people in Australia and 630,000
or travelling
abroad. Yes, exactly. So 630,000 Australians visited Italy in 2009. I would say this year, I mean it's 2011, so we're 2 years later. It would be well over 700,000 Australians, 750,000 possibly, visiting Italy. So I don't think Italy needs to worry about attracting Australians coming to visit. As I said at the beginning, Australians love Italy.
Ma forse non è vero il contrario.
No, exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. On the other side, it's not the case. The Italian tourist numbers to Australia are quite low, and again, it's this attitude thing. It's very easy to get on a package flight and go to, I don't know, to Malta or to Greece or to wherever, but it's not easy to go to Australia. They say it's just too far and everything, and that's true. It is a long way, but 630,000 Australians decided that Italy was close enough to visit in 2009, and I would love to see more Italian tourists visit Australia. These days there are very cheap flights. Qantas unfortunately doesn't fly to Rome, but many other airlines fly to our part of the world, and there's a very good choice of airlines and good fares at the moment because the airlines are competing to get tourists and for business. So I'd love to see a lot more Italians go to Australia, and they'd have a very warm welcome there. There are bits of Melbourne, as you know, where you could almost think you're not outside Italy. You know, all the restaurants, everybody speaks Italian,
and the better ice creams in the world.
And absolutely, and I often say to people that we have the second best coffee in the world after Italy.
Definitely.
And that's because of Italians. So I think people would feel very much at home there. Plus, you know, I look at Italian beaches, and Italian beaches are beautiful, believe me, no problem there. But our beaches in Australia are the best in the world. They're just gorgeous, and, you know, people could be on a 2 or 3 kilometre beach by themselves with the surf and everything. So I really encourage Italians to think outside their own area and to come and visit Australia. We have a number of publicity campaigns going here through the Australian Tourism Commission, Tourism Australia. Non c'è niente come l'Australia is the name of the campaign. And who could disagree? That's exactly correct. The other thing, as I mentioned earlier on, is I'd like to see more young people go to Australia. And we have a very good work and holiday visa scheme where even if it costs them a little bit to get to Australia, they can work in Australia and earn money to cover the costs of that. And I think that would be a wonderful experience for young people. And they'll come back and they'll tell everybody what a great time they had.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Ambasciatore, vorrebbe salutare gli italo-australiani in italiano?
Sì, no, è molto piacere. E per me una fortuna che essere qui in Italia, e ci sono tanti australiani con un'ascendenza italiana e molti visitatori anche in Italia, 630.000 australiani hanno visitato l'Italia. Allora è molto importante che molti più italiani anche visitano Australia, è importante per noi. Ma gli australiani con una discendenza italiana sono molto importanti per l'Australia e per la storia australiana. Allora, tanti auguri e era veramente un piacere di discutere questo.
Molte grazie, ambasciatore.
Molte grazie.
Thanks for your time.